Guys ready at WMCT-TV? We are? Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for coming out. I just stepped outside. It is a beautiful, beautiful October night. So for all of you to be here with me, I am truly flattered. So thank you. You could be doing a million other things. So thank you. So tonight is the first, hopefully, of many town halls. So we asked the community to submit questions. So for all of you that have, thank you for that. And so what we did was we incorporated those questions with just updates of what's going on, kind of department by department. So I'll kind of give you an overview of what all of that entails. If time allows, which I'm sure it will, then we can open it up for questions for those of you that are here. I would like to remind you that I'm 10 months in, so please be nice, okay? Rome was not built in a day, neither was my administration, so please keep that in mind. So if there's an answer that I do not know, if you do ask a question, we'll get back to you. It is obviously being taped and filmed, and we are live with WMCT-TV, so thank you all for being here and streaming that, and obviously you can review it, and then the content regarding questions will be submitted in our next month's newsletter as well. So you get all the information of what I talked about in actual written form as well. Having said that, thank you all for being here, and we'll jump right in. So we certified free cash of $19 million, and what that is there's extra monies from the fiscal year before regarding monies that we haven't used. And I say that because there was an extra about $7 million this year. That's because I was able to negotiate with Northborough a 10-year litigation that we were having with Northborough. So what happened is that Northborough was utilizing our water and sewer plant, but not paying the fees for that. So after 10 years of litigation, welcome. After 10 years of litigation, we're able to mediate that and actually get a payment for that. So that was a big win for us because it was legal fees were mounting. So we're excited for that, and that actually just get rolled into free cash. And we'll talk about that later. So moving on, big topic, roads. So obviously Marlborough is not the most ideal when it comes to road work, especially with the Route 20 project. So we are in the process, I just signed a contract to update our pavement management plan to assess conditions, and so we can utilize that information and then put a multi-year plan for paving and utility work. So that plan will be public once it's finally finalized. So we're in the beginning phases of that. So many streets are not done because there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to get done beforehand. So people often think, why isn't my road paved, or why is this road getting done beforehand? And that's because the water or the sewer lines were actually completed, so then we can actually pave that road to make it complete. So if your road is not in the best shape, so we have to evaluate the conditions underneath it, because we don't want what I've heard numerous times on the campaign trail. Why do we pave a road and then we dig into it for the water? Well, because the infrastructure wasn't done beforehand. So I just want to remind people of that piece, that there's a lot of things going on underneath that road. So we don't want to just pave it just for the sake of paving it. So that's why the patchwork is done before we have to line up between National Grid, Eversource, NSTAR, and all the utilities underneath. And obviously our water lines need to get done too, so the DPW schedule. So you're talking about a lot of different schedules in order to maintain that road, so then we can pave it. So we're looking at that from an infrastructure standpoint, and then with the pavement improvement plan, then we can assess the roads that are needed, and then we can ask City Council for that funding. So in regarding the free cash and the $7 million for the Northborough, hopefully we'll work with City Council. There's a City Council here, so Councilor Oram, thank you for coming. We can work with the City Council to expedite some of the road work utilizing those funds, and hopefully City Council will be on board with that. Route 20 update. I know it's a wonderful conversation. So I was able to sit down with Department of Transportation and actually get an update. So the first course of paving is done, and the final work should be completed by the summer of 2025. So we're actually pretty close. So I appreciate all your patience when it comes to that. The state is currently working on the sidewalks, and the city completed 3 miles of water main work. So, and that's why it's extremely important and why this project took so long. Because again, when we're going back to that infrastructure, the water, the gas, all of that, the sewer needs to be fixed first. So there's a lot of moving pieces with a very large road that's heavily utilized. So hopefully that will be done by summer of 2025, as I was promised by the state. Capital projects. So capital projects, again, we utilize that free cash that I mentioned earlier for things that, special projects that can be done throughout the city. So for an example, the deck hockey rink down at Galoni was utilized. That cost $348,000, and then we used $500,000 of ARPA money for that project. So the rec department will be working on utilizing that deck hockey rink more. It's a great asset to the community. We just passed through City Council the Farrell wading pool, so that's at Hildreth School, where I went to elementary school. So that wading pool needed quite a bit of work, so we're redoing that pool so we can use that for the next summer. The dog park, which will be opening up sometime next month. And then we utilize a lot of other things for capital improvement plans. So such as, we just bought a fire truck that's coming the end of this, actually it's at the end of the month, so beginning of November, we should be getting the fire truck. We purchased a lot of vehicles for the Department of Public Works, as well as the police, 4 police cruisers, and then we are actually digitalizing all our records from the planning department. So we are severely outdated when it comes to digitalizing our records, so for easy access for public records requests. So there's a lot of records that are kept in the Walker building in their basement. So we utilize free cash so we can get up to date and current, so we can be more transparent about things that we have done in the past. So that's why it's extremely important to utilize our free cash effectively and not utilizing it for operating costs. And we'll get into that a little bit later. A lot of concern with the Main Street downtown project. So Main Street and Weed Street projects were funded through a state grant through the Mass Works. So some parking was relocated off the street. There's been some concerns that we lost parking when actually we configured a new parking lot and we added 4 spaces. So there seems to be a misconception that we lost parking, but we actually gained parking. The Bolton Street intersection was put in place by the previous administration we eliminated some lanes and things of that nature and turn lanes, and that's utilized for calming for traffic. So, and it's pedestrian friendly, so that's why. So please be patient and trust the process. I know it's a big learning curve. I need to get a t-shirt that says trust the process, because it seems like I've been utilizing that mantra a lot in the 10 months. Things are done for a reason. I know that it's very difficult to see that when you're involved in it, but when you take a step back and you see the bigger picture. So please bear with us with that. There's been some concern about crosswalks on Main Street as well, and they're not completed yet. So I know there's some issues with the lines being painted, but they're being specially treated, and it can only be done 1 crosswalk at a time. So they are coming, so be on the lookout for that. So we obviously want a safe Main Street, so we're doing that right. And of course, when you do things right, sometimes it has to be done slowly. I was very excited during the beginning of my administration was put forth to the City Council a website redesign and upgrade. So this is extremely exciting. So it should be launching by January. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So it's a complete upgrade. So it'll be cleaner, more accessible, and then it will have a chat bot and AI feature. So that's extremely exciting. And then it will enhance ADA capabilities and compliance. So be on the lookout for that. I got a sneak peek and it looks pretty cool with the little icon. So I'm very happy for that. And again, that's just part of the administration. So that's why we're doing this town hall, so we can have more transparency and update information. The previous website was a little clunky. It was hard to update with department heads. So this will kind of just streamline things so you get accurate, up-to-date information. Another big topic during the campaign was the West Side Fire Station. So progress continues to be made behind the scenes. There's things I can't obviously discuss due to finding parcels of land. So there was a West Side Fire Station Committee, and they've been working and have worked and identified some parcels of land. So we're looking at those parcels of land to make sure that they are viable and that they're buildable. I obviously want this probably more than anyone, but we have to do it right. You know, part of the administration is that you're thinking of today, but you're also thinking 50 years down the road from now. So finding that parcel of land, you don't want to just rush into something just to get the job done. So we need to explore all options when it comes to that, so we can dot all our I's and cross all our T's, because we don't want to just do one just for the sake of doing it. So we really are being methodical about, is this the right parcel? Does it make sense for now? City Council just passed Donald Lynch Boulevard zoning, so there'll be some development down at near the mall. The mall is for sale, so we are looking into that component as well. I've been working with Berlin and their zoning to see what makes sense with the mall, but also we need a fire station that actually deals with that part of Marlborough as well. So we're kind of looking ahead for the future. So just to pick a parcel, we really have to do our due diligence in making sure that it's done right. We deserve it to the city of Marlborough and the residents that here. They've been wanting it for the past 30 years. So we're working on that behind the scenes. So unfortunately, that's all the information that I can give you, but we are actively working on it. As I said in my inauguration speech, that it probably will not be done in 2 years, but hopefully we'll identify a parcel of land and move forward with that. Another hot button issue is the schools. We are working behind the scenes as well to build a new elementary school. So to give you an update on that, we've hired an OPM, which is the owners, meaning the city, project manager. So we are in the feasibility stage. So what that means is that the OPM, the project manager, will be looking also at identifiable land to actually build a new school. So we're working with the state to get reimbursed for that project. So we are busting at the seams with all our elementary schools. I'm well aware of that, and we need to take action. So we are in the process of that. I know that there is a long-withstanding busing issue, and we are working on that issue. So that is out for bid for a new contract. So we are looking and exploring other options regarding busing. I know there's been quite a hoopla about walking and having elementary school and middle school walkers based upon geographic. I was a walker during elementary school and middle school. It is not the end of the world if we do have walkers, but we have to assess the needs based upon what's safe for our students, and we'll obviously look at that because that's our top priority. And then we'll see how the busing contract works out when it goes out to bid and finalized. So talking with other mayors, this is a problem across all of Massachusetts where there's a monopoly when it comes to busing. So other communities are facing this problem where the contract with busing is 3 to 4 times more than what we've been paying for currently. So it is a huge issue, not just for Marlborough, but across the board. So we've been talking to the legislation about that and how do we fix that so we can actually ensure that our students get to school safe. So that is a priority of mine. So I am well aware of that, and we're working on that issue. So more details will come about that contract. Other school-related issues, I know that bullying is a huge issue in the middle school at Whitcomb. So I've been obviously chair of the school committee. It's been a large topic of debate when it comes to school committee. We are looking at that at Whitcomb. So the elementary school has a great program when it comes to identifying bullying, and now it's being in the middle school as well. So that's a huge, huge step in the right direction. And I state this numerous times, being a product of the Marlborough public school system and being bullied myself, I do not take this lightly. It's a huge issue that needs to be addressed. There's serious concerns about Whitcomb, and I know the school committee is very adamant about working on that and making sure that we educate our students on what bullying is and to stop the harassment that currently exists in our school. It's obviously not all bad, but just one kid being bullied, we need to provide a safe environment for all students, and so we are looking at that very closely. Our class sizes are extremely large when it comes to elementary school, and as I mentioned before, we are working on building a new elementary school to minimize that issue. I know the union contracts for all the teachers are complete, and I'm proud to say that it all went very well. So the paras are actually excited to come to work, and they're engaged and involved, and so the hiring process can begin so we can have more support for our teachers, which is very much needed. I know there's a lot of concern with AMSA. So AMSA, as far as I know, is exploring the option to raise the cap. That's all the information that I have regarding AMSA. So we are trying to all work together because it is a great asset to the community, but we need to figure out a way to work together and utilize their services just as much as what we offer for the Marlborough High. So they are looking to raise the cap for that. I think that's all the questions that we got for schools. I know we can probably go on and on about schools, but if you have specific questions about schools, please reach out to my office if you're listening at home. Moving on to city finances. So we put together our first budget that was extremely fiscally conservative, and we continue to deliver services and keep the tax rate low, which I'm very proud of. We have free cash, which I explained what we use that for. And then we maintained our bond rating of a AAA, which is the highest bond rating that you can receive. And why is that so important is so when we go out to build 2 fixture roads, we take a loan or a bond. And when you have a bond rating of a AAA bond rating, it means your FICO score, so to speak, in layman's terms, is the best that it can possibly be. So we're more desirable for banks to give you that loan so we can fund those capital improvement plans such as streets. So we're very excited to maintain that and keep that going. Development, another wonderful issue. So zoning and development are largely in the hands of City Council. They approve zoning in many of the developments. I sign off on the changes that need to be made. I personally would prefer more owner-occupied developments. I believe I share some of that sentiment with some of the councilors as well. When you have owner-occupied establishments or homes, people are more likely to get involved because they're invested in the community. A moratorium was suggested in one of the questions, and that would make us ineligible for some state grant funding, so we try to shy away from moratoriums. So if you ask that question, that's the reason why we don't do that, or I'm very cautious not to put a moratorium on development. Housing shortages across the nation, across the Commonwealth. I understand those needs and trying to work with other mayors and the lieutenant governor and governor on how to address those needs. But unfortunately, growth is a necessary evil. So it allows a tax rate to be kept low. The Green District is probably one of the highest residential taxpayers in the city. So the reason why we can afford the leaf pickup that we actually just talked about today at WMCT-TV, and then the mattress pickup and trash pickup, all of those are able to be provided by the city of Marlborough, and that tax rate is because of growth. Like I said, growth is extremely important, but it's trying to find the right parcel of land and find the right project. And I know City Council does the best that they can. Being on a City Council, we do our best to ensure that is what is happening. MBDC does a great job of attracting large commercial entities that help offset the cost in taxes. So I know that people see the traffic and all those concerns, but growth is imperative, unfortunately. But again, it's just finding the right developer and the right project for that. And the high cost for apartments, it's based on supply and demand. Unfortunately, Marlborough is a very centrally located community where a lot of people want to live. So that price for that apartment complex kind of demands that price. I would love to see prices come down, but Marlborough is the epitome of a lot of other communities. So when I go to mayor's meetings, a lot of other mayors are very envious of what we have to offer and where we're located, and I'm proud of that. But unfortunately, there is a cost to that, and unfortunately, that's with apartment pricing. As far as communications, I know that there's been some discussions and questions of like, how do we better communicate with the community? I think having events like this is a step in the right direction. We started a newsletter, which I think most of you probably received, which is probably why you're here, hopefully. If you have not signed up for the mayor's newsletter, please go onto our website and you can sign up for that. We've been getting a lot of great feedback. Obviously, communication from the public is extremely important. I do like to caution, I do have a limited staff, so we're trying to do our best to get back to everyone, and sometimes it's tough. But we continue to do our best, and we want to make sure that we are completely transparent and offer you the needs that you want and answer the questions that you have. We have a mobile mayor's office, which is new. So we've been going out to different events with a table to ask questions, to answer questions. And I love events like this because all the questions that were asked were all very insightful, thoughtful, considerate, which I appreciate. And then it obviously gives a new light and new ideas and a fresh perspective. Sometimes when you're down working around the clock, and sometimes you kind of get lost in the fold. So it's nice to listen to other people and hear the concerns of the residents, because you get an idea of like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I said this as a city councilor, and I'll say this probably in any political office that I'm in, that the best ideas come from residents, but we have to be able to be in tune with them and listen to them. So having things like this or a newsletter where you can give feedback is something that I strongly believe in and will continue to do. So I want to thank you for that. I mean, I'm trying to go to as many events as possible. I think I had a conversation earlier with someone who's like, do you ever sleep? I do. As someone's saying, no, I don't. But it's very important for me to be present, and to be involved and engaged in the community. So that's why I try to be everywhere and do everything, because, again, people ask questions, and it's good to look someone in the eye and say, oh, thank you, or reach out to my office so they know that they are heard and being heard. This job is difficult, but I truly love it. But I also come from a very customer service standpoint where people just want to be listened to at the end of the day. And so that's a part of who I am. So for me not to be out at events, that's kind of feeds my soul. So when people say stop going to events, I'm like, you're telling me not to breathe. So just keep that in mind when I'm out. But please continue saying prayers and allowing me to sleep on occasion. But I promise. So again, so I continue to go out to different events and stop at local businesses, because as a small business, it's extremely important to know that a mayor is involved and invested and actually genuinely care about my small business, because a small business actually gives back to the community as a whole. So if you see me out, and if I forget your name, I apologize. There's a lot of things going on in my head, so bear with me with that. Speaking of the community, I was extremely excited to bring back the Labor Day Festival, which was a huge success. I literally thought there was going to be like 20 people on Main Street, and it was just going to be me, but it wasn't the case. So there was probably about 5,000 people, which was extremely, extremely exciting to see that energy, that buzz. I think after COVID, we're not one to kind of venture out anymore. And the reason we had it on Main Street was because it's my sole purpose with this administration is to revitalize Main Street. So the thought process was to have the event on Main Street so that the city is invested in Main Street. We want to provide for the small businesses on Main Street to bring people to Main Street. I obviously mentioned earlier that the mall is up for sale, so it's a dying. When the mall was built, their concern was that people would go to the mall and not Main Street. So now it's time to bring things back down to Main Street. So providing these events down Main Street was a huge win for me personally. Labor Day is my favorite holiday, which is bizarre because it brings back nostalgia with my family of the Labor Day parade and seeing the chairs being put out and going down to Ward Park. And you have that sense of community. And for me, it was extremely important to bring it to Main Street. And you either have something to do on Labor Day or nothing to do on Labor Day because there's nothing really open. So the people that didn't have anything to do, like myself, all came out, and the weather could not have been perfect. So if you showed up for Labor Day, thank you for, again, bringing back that inner child for me and bringing back those memories. And now we're creating new memories for the next generation to come, which for me is the best thing that I can do as mayor. So there'll be more to come with that. And of course, Labor Day parade and I say walking, but I really run because I'm always behind. Again, it was just the cherry on the top of the cake. So thank you for allowing me to do what I love. Moving on to senior services, we had a few questions about expanding hours of the senior center. So we are exploring that option. I know that I had a few Saturdays with Chat and Chew where we kind of had a town hall style in the senior center, kind of like this, where we provided breakfast. And obviously it was on a Saturday morning, so they're not normally open, but that was well received. So we're exploring different options, whether it's at night or during the weekends. So we'll be looking at cost for staffing in that regards. We did receive a Cummings grant for the next 3 years that allowed us to hire a chef. So this is a pretty cool concept. There is a full working kitchen. So the chef will be there twice a week to provide a pilot program for lunches so you can get a hot meal. So I know that a study was done or a survey with what the senior citizens kind of want to eat. So that was exciting. So we have a chef and she's all excited and on board. So we're really looking forward to that. Again, it's just a new different perspective when it comes to the senior center and make it more engaging and get a kind of a hot meal and kind of order and kind of take and go. So we're excited for that. So another wonderful issue is traffic. These are all fun, aren't they? So when it comes to traffic, so we did go through the state for temporary speed bumps for our earmark. So we're looking forward to get that finalized. So we'll be, once that does pass through the budget and we get here for that, then we will put in temporary speed bumps. And we do temporary because they're movable. So there's a lot of different neighborhoods that actually have a lot of traffic concerns. So we can actually move them place to place, so you'll never know where they are. So just to kind of surprise you. So I guess it's more a fun game for me when I think about that. So thank you for that epiphany. So obviously, I joke, but traffic is obviously is a huge concern here. So talking with the police chief, I asked him why other communities, when you know of other communities, why do people know not to speed in those communities? Because enforcement is extremely tough. And why isn't Marlborough that? So we've had those conversations and we're being more proactive about enforcement. Of course, now the flip side is I will probably be the first one to get a speeding ticket because everyone seems to be speeding. You know, you always want to get home and whether to change or I'm running late. So if we start enforcing traffic and getting a speeding ticket, I do not want to hear that you got a speeding ticket because you are part of the problem and I'm trying to be part of the solution. So I just want to throw that out there. There's always two sides to every coin. So we are working on that. We understand that there's a need. We're looking into next year's budget to see if we can add officers. So that's a bigger conversation that we'll have with counselors. So it is an issue. I recognize it. It is hard to control, but we hear you loud and clear. So thank you for the constant reminder regarding that. There's been some questions about the opioid funds and why haven't we spent the money as of yet. So it's a great question. So we have about $400,000 to date to utilize for those funds. So we do have a committee that is set up and they'll be meeting within the next week or so. And they'll be making recommendations to myself on how to use that. And obviously once we decide that, it'll go down to City Council so they know that it's being utilized. The reason why we're doing this is in creating a committee because I am no expert in this field, nor should I be the one to just write the pen and sign the check. So it's very important to get people that are in the community that understand this, who respect it, who are very knowledgeable about this. So it'll be a lively debate on how to utilize those funds effectively, and more so than what I can do. I'm not an expert, nor do I want to be the smartest person in the room. I would like to surround myself with the people that know what they're doing and what they're talking about. So that committee has been formed, and they'll be meeting relatively soon so we can get the ball rolling on that. I know it's been a long time coming, and so I'm excited that that is working its way through the process. Because why? We trust the process. So outreach. There's been a lot of questions and concerns regarding outreach to minority communities, specifically Brazilian and Spanish communities. My admin, Heather, actually does speak Spanish, so I was extremely excited to have her come on board because obviously that was a need. We tried to hire a communications director through the city because I think that we need it, and we're not going to beat a dead horse, but the idea was to have that person or individual speak Portuguese because obviously that's needed. But I continue to attend events throughout the community that both are Spanish and Portuguese speaking, just so there's a presence and that they know that the mayor's office is committed to including everyone. I just went to a ribbon cutting at Master Cuts. They have a great little grocery store who speak Portuguese. They're Brazilian native, and again, it's very important to make your presence known in those small businesses. Just because they speak a foreign language or from a different country doesn't mean that they're not part of this community. So I strive hard to be involved and engage with that community. And there are a few people that do speak Portuguese in City Hall as well, but we are making a conscious effort to hire more multi-language individuals. Speaking of City Hall, we hired an HR director, a new city collector, and we'll be hiring a new CFO soon. We're currently doing a classification and compensation study to see how we can be more competitive with compensation to recruit and retain employees. We started professional development with our department heads now that the HR director is settled. And then next year we'll be ramping up our professional development for city employees so we can be more effective. And then current negotiations with all 7 of the city unions attempting to address long-standing issues that affect morale. Busy, busy. So that kind of wraps it up for me. Hopefully I addressed a lot of your concerns in that. I know that there are people here. We're slated till 8 o'clock, so it's about 6:30 now. So again, I will open it up for questions. And again, please be nice. If I do not have the answer, we'll definitely get back to you regarding that. But again, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you all for coming out to submit your questions. Again, this being the first town hall, you never know who's going to turn out or who's watching. But again, it's really important for me to express what's going on day to day in City Hall and in my office. And again, so you hear it kind of from the horse's mouth. I know there's a lot of social media out there and a lot of misrepresentation of what's going on. We do try our best to make sure that communication is out there, but this job is a lot of moving pieces, so sometimes we can't get ahead of the communication, so we are trying to do better. And I think that's why having this town hall, you kind of sums everything up in what I call verbal diarrhea, unfortunately. So I thank you for being here, and let's open it up, shall we? So if anyone has a question, I believe there's a microphone in the back, and if there's not, then we can all go home because it's a beautiful night. So, yeah. Yes. If you just state your name as well so I can address you.
Hi, my name is Hannah, and you mentioned that you're looking at building a new elementary school.
Correct.
I know years ago they did a feasibility study
Correct.
for Richer.
Correct.
And we got good now.
Correct.
We were supposed to do a new feasibility study to renovate Richer. Does a new school mean that that's being passed over again?
If it's being passed over?
That we're not renovating Richer again because we're building another new school instead?
So we're through the MSBA, so the Massachusetts School Board, so that's the process. So it's the same kind of scope regarding Goodnow Brothers. So we have to assess in the feasibility study if we can actually renovate Richer or if we have to build a new school.
Okay, but if we could renovate Richer, we would do that?
That's what the feasibility study would determine to see if it's actually feasible to do.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So the question that lies on the table is that we cannot renovate Richer School unless we have a place for the students to go to. So that's what we have to figure out. So
okay,
it's a multi-layered question that I don't have the answers to yet because it may not be feasible to redo Richer School.
I also want to say I too walked to school, but I walked on sidewalks. And I think it's really important that we look at not only how far students have to walk, but the actual roads that they have to walk on and across. Because a lot of our schools do go near large roads, especially Richer. You know, kids walking across Route 20 is a little bit scary. Bigelow Road is scary. I couldn't agree with you more
with that. Absolutely. The safety is the paramount here, so of the children. So that obviously will be taken into consideration.
And then lastly, the MCAS reports came out, and our schools did not do great.
Correct.
We do have some students who are clearly soaring, and some who need help. How are we budgeting to challenge and not lose those highest achievers? And we obviously need much more support for our lowest achievers. And I know that's huge, being a teacher myself, but it's definitely something that we need to target because those are the future small business owners of this city.
I agree. I am one of them. So just to personalize this, I was diagnosed with an IEP the end of my junior year. So, and I have said this quite a few times because I want you to know that I'm committed to that because being a consistently inconsistent student, it was very difficult to navigate through that process. So I hear that loud and clear. I know that Marlborough High does an exceptional job with AP courses. I know that's been constantly being reevaluated. I know that Dr. Raleigh obviously takes a lot of time doing that. And I think that a lot of the barriers is the English as second language, so we're reevaluating that to getting that support with ESL. So we're actively working on that. And I know that the school committee is very engaged in that process, and we've been exploring a lot of that. So obviously jumping in halfway through the school year is very difficult. But again, there's a lot of meat there that we have to look through. But I thank you for that question. So, and like I said, it's tough to navigate, but we are working on that. So, thank you. Sure.
Hi, my name is Loretta, and it was just a follow-up question to your mention of getting speed bumps
Yes.
in Marlborough. So what is the methodology and process that you're going to implement? Is it when you said that they're movable from area to area? So is it like X amount of time in one area and then you go to another area, or how? Because I live Kings Grant and Benjamin, so Kings Grant is a bit of a throughway.
Sure.
And there's a lot of children
Yeah.
in my street and on Kings Grant, and a lot
Sure.
of dogs and people walking. So I was just wondering how
Yeah, so
you're
as soon as we get them, we'll be exploring how to implement them. So, and we'll make sure that that's pretty transparent regarding that. So we won't just tell you where they are. So we'll just tell you the length of time and that duration has not been decided yet. So we have to get them first. So, but, yeah. I would agree. Absolutely, I would agree. But again, it's just a step in the right direction to mitigate. Again, it's just one small part of the plan regarding traffic and speeding. So there'll be a bigger picture there for that. Okay. You're welcome. Crickets.
Well, the World Series hasn't started yet, so I'll get up and ask. And I am not rooting for the team just south of us. But anyways, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark Oram, City Councilor at Large, and everything you mentioned, I hear the same concerns, traffic, development, and so forth. Schools especially, I was just going to bring up in 1990, when I first became a local ward councilor for this ward, Ward 6, it was either 90 or 92, 1992, we were looking at a plan. And one of the plans actually suggested that Bigelow School, where I went to school and walked to till 6th grade, was a consideration as a central school, almost like Goodnow is a central down this area.
Sure.
Is that on the drawing block at all to look at Bigelow School or that area? I know we lease it, but there will be a point where we won't be leasing it, and have they considered that property as we did back in the 90s?
We are not ruling anything out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't want to steal the fire from it, but I just wanted to suggest that seemed very appropriate, but we were mixed back then as 11 councilors. I think we had 5 that thought it was a good plan, but the other 6 voted against it. And the other note, I've seen these temporary speed bumps. I've asked the police chief many a years to consider them. At one point, he really wasn't in favor of that. I'm glad you have convinced him. I see them when I travel. They have them in Ashland. I go through Ashland. They have them in a condominium section, and we had them at Town Hall in Ashland, where I used to work there. They move them out in the winter because they can't plow, but they bolt them in the ground during the year, during the summer and the seasonal time of year. So I still think they're a great advantage. If you go through Berlin to get to the mall, you'll see them on that road from Hudson to Berlin. There's a few of them there. And I think it's great that, we're considering them again. I know they don't do the complete job, but I will support, and I've spoken to the police chief too, and I agree with you. We need to increase the staffing at our police department. And if I get a ticket because I said that, so be it. But I do try to drive careful, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for your time. And one other suggestion.
Sure.
I don't know, I know cable TV's here. Thank you again. WMCT-TV, they love when I say that. Hi, everyone. Is there a place, this is a big little theater, if everyone would agree with me, it's quite big.
Sure.
Is the library possible, the new areas in the library? Because we could showcase that when you have another city hall meeting, or we can call it town hall too. But
Yeah, I think it's just easier to set things up because the chairs are already here, the podium's already here, and plus you never know when you put something out who's going to show up. So
Sure,
I think
no,
we're limited
understandable.
at the library. So this
well,
space is available.
Mother Nature took care of tonight, I think.
Yes,
It's too nice.
Right.
But
And hey, you know what? Mother Nature took care of me during the Labor Day parade and
Yeah,
for
there
the
you go.
Horribles parade.
There you go.
So I'm gonna thank you, baby Jesus.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say when
But,
it comes to the weather. So
I
yeah.
would suggest the Rotary Club, which I belong to, utilize the larger the room, the conference room at the library. Really nice.
It did. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love the
maybe
library.
try that venue. A suggestion.
Thank you.
And we could sit closer and be like the typical town hall meetings.
I don't know. It's flu season. I don't know if you want to get that close.
Well, close enough with mask. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. I will say, I guess, public comments. We'll go to school committee. Public comments that we had during school committee. There's a public comment option, and I have to say it 3 times. And if no one comes up to the podium, then we are done. So let's play this game. Public comment going once. Seeing none. Public comment going twice. Last chance. Oh, you're counting with me. Is that what you're doing? I thought you had a question. All right. Okay. I think I can count to 3, but public comment for the 3rd time. Seeing none. I literally adjourned this town hall meeting at 6:45. Thank you all for being here. I will be here for a few more minutes if you want to talk privately about something. And for everyone at home watching, thank you. And please feel free to reach out if there's something that I missed, and we'll be happy to include it in the newsletter. So have a wonderful night, and thank you again for coming and watching.